Hello, everyone, and welcome to Megahaulin, a podcast based on the Wise Wizard game Star Realms. My name is Dustin, and I am your host. It's great to be back with you guys again. We're recording on February 5th of 2022. And as always, I'm joined by my outstanding co-host, Rick Darklighter DeMille. Rick, welcome back to the cast.
Good to be back. Thank you. I'm outstanding. That feels good.
I like it. Yeah. Well, it's outstanding until you realize it's already February. You know, like where did January go? It just went woof.
Yeah. Well, we're in the middle. Well, not the middle. The Olympics just started, so that's fun. Been watching some curling.
Some curling. Yeah, I watched biathlon. I really like the biathlon and I love the little penalty ring. I wish there was sort of like an analogy in Star Realms when you miss a shot, you have to go around the ring a couple of times for every shot you miss, and then then you go back out. I don't know how we do that, but
that's what bottom decking is, right? That's like your penalty ring.
I've always thought of that more as a karma thing where you're
right.
You're just getting what you're due because of something else that you did.
Sometimes I don't feel like I deserve it.
Well, some people say that cards are weighted by their cost, so the eights always go to the very, very bottom, and occasionally like they'll catch a bubble or something and float up to the top, so you'll get them earlier than you think. But we should always expect them to be the last card in a reshuffle.
Yeah.
So just before you reshuffle, that's the way it goes.
Yeah.
Well, we got a really fantastic day here in San Francisco. It's sunny. I'm back teaching improv classes. I started last Monday teaching improv classes, which is awesome, and
very cool.
Had some rehearsals today, so I know I may attempt humor again on the cast. Rick,
do or do not. There is no attempt.
Do or do not. There is no bad joke. Yeah, I don't know. I think you've got some classic straight man material. You're a classic straight man for my goofiness sometimes, but yeah. And then I've been grinding away, and I've got to say, I of course I don't have as many games as you do. Very few people in the world have as many anywhere near the same game as you do. But I just made it up to level 47,
nice.
Which is approximately where some really famous players like Sweet Justice and Marauder Mo and some of these other folks are. So I don't feel bad about that number because they're largely playing outside of the rank ladder. But I decided to just really grind on Admiral Lee as a commander. And man, it took me forever to get to 47. Like that 46 was really hard. I had a lot of close brushes, and people were stacking their losses, so I had to wait, and I didn't have the option to wait, so I had to take a couple of losses and blah blah blah. But I made it. I just nice. Newly minted level 47.
Nice, congrats.
And I'm still at that 59% win percentage. As long as that holds, I'll be happy. It's not the elite, but I would consider it pretty well above average.
59 is very good.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see if we can keep it.
Yeah, well, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So how about you? Anything excited on the Star Realm side?
Well, I've been grinding ranked games as well. But the climb is a little harder when you're at 122 or whatever I'm at. It takes a long time to get up a level. So I think I'm at the same level I was last time we talked. So ranked games not much, but there's been a lot of fun things happening in tournaments. I got to the top 4 of one of the dodgeball individual events that I just got eliminated today, though. So, but it was fun to get to make it that far. But yeah, still having fun. I started a Hero Realms League digital.
I saw that.
It's interesting. It's a lot of work, but I think it's cool. So
I did not sign up for that because largely I am highly dissatisfied with my just general performance in Hero Realms. I've got to reprogram my brain a little bit to make sure that I'm playing correctly. Because if you just jump in there and try to play it like Star Realms, race to the scrap, you're going to find yourself.
Yeah,
you're going to find yourself in trouble a lot.
Yeah, that doesn't work.
Yeah, so I'm trying to reprogram so that when I'm playing Hero, maybe I should just play Star Realms on a PC and then play Hero Realms on the iPad or something like that, because then my mentality of what am I doing will shift.
Yeah,
it's just, I don't know, I just get into a little bit of like
automatic there's differences. Play. There's differences. Star Realms, I'll go games without buying an Explorer, but in the Hero Realms equivalent, the Fire Gem, I buy those a lot,
Yeah.
especially as certain characters. So there's different strategies. It's not a just a 1-to-one
Yeah.
comparison between the two.
Well, with hero realms, there's no trade row or market removal.
Right.
So if you turn up a bomb, then it's a race to the bomb. You can't get rid of it somehow, like you like using a green scrap ship or something along those lines, or an event, a chaotic activity to get rid of it. You're just stuck racing to it at that point. Where it's and it feels a little bit like vanilla Star Realms on some levels. Like if you had a command ship or a brain world that you would race to that, and usually the person who got that first would win.
Yeah, that not that we need to get into hero realm strategy, but that's why fire gems are so important. Um, because the only trade row control in hero realms is buying.
Yeah,
That's the only way you can remove something from the trade row. And so when one of those things hits, you got to be the one that's able to get it.
buy or
So,
buy not. There is no buying.
so yeah, so the trade that you can scrap is even more valuable um, in hero realms, I think. So
I'm waiting for the well, this will be the end of the hero realms discussion,
yeah,
but I'm waiting for the card tier list from you around hero realms,
I
because
think
I'm
someone's working on that.
okay. Well, because here's
Yeah,
what I predict that a fire gem will be in a must buy early game and mid game, above a lot of cards that people are just routinely taking off of the market row.
there are cards. Yeah, I would agree with that. It's the fire gem is much more valuable
Yeah.
in hero realms. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. All right. Well, we've got a great big announcement coming up, actually. So, as you know better than I do, there has been a lot of development work going on in the background on the Star Realms digital app. And finally, Wise Wizard is ready to deploy that. And they've kind of given us notice that it looks like, is it the 8th? Let me see. Let me just check the date to make sure. Sorry, 9 a.m. Eastern time on February 9th, there's
Hmm.
going to be a game breaking update to the app. Okay.
Not
What
game
is
breaking.
not game breaking?
Not I well, unless
Hmm.
it says something here. I asked Joel in Discord specifically that question. He said it's not game breaking.
Huh. Okay. Because in their release, it says it's coming, 9 a.m. February 9th. Finish your games. When they say finish your games, it
Uh,
usually means that if you're the one holding the bag, it's going to be a loss.
okay, I'm going to follow up with Joel because I asked him and he said it does not break games. So
Okay, well, that will make me very happy if it doesn't break games, because I have sort of slowed down, and I just hit a level. Now I've got to take the inevitable, like, 20 game, 20 out of 30 loss. Anytime you level up, you got to get beat down for your success, and then you can start grinding back up again. But if it's not game breaking, that's fine. It doesn't matter for me, Rick, because I'm not going to have any games waiting just to find out either way.
well, those
uh,
of for the leagues that we're in, we need to know that. Like the people who run leagues,
yeah,
if it
that makes
when yeah.
That makes sense. But we're going to talk about all of the changes that are coming. And, it's one of these funny things. A lot of the streamers, Dusto, Matt the Cutter, even, well, actually VQ doesn't have it, but a lot of folks who do actually have, and have for quite some time, been participating in the beta and helping to sort of shape this new
Hmm.
release. So there's a bunch of stuff that's going to be coming out. And we're going to talk about all of those items. And then we're going to touch back in, because the high alert tech cards are going to come in, and we'll talk just a little bit and remind people about that, because that's a new mechanic. Those will be in the game, and it's the first of the high alert sets to be delivered. So we're going to talk through the updates, then we're going to check back in, since you've played several hundred more games that may or may not have included tech, or at least you had the opportunity to play several hundred more games with tech. Take your impressions and see how you feel about them. Maybe give people some early advantage if they make the updates over the people who are just coming into it blind. And that's what you get for listening to Megahaulin. So let's dive
Boom.
right in there. You get that extra Benny. Okay, so I'm just going to read through, and we'll talk about the individual pieces. I know that this is not the complete list, but
Hmm.
tech expansion we're going to save till the end. But there's a bunch of changes in the online lobby layout. Okay, so for most people, And yeah, maybe I'll try to show this on camera. I'm going to try to show this on camera. Okay. So I'm using an iPad here. So for those of you how is that, Rick? Can you see that easily?
Yeah,
Okay. So most
I
of
see it.
you who have been playing the game for quite a while have seen this lobby as kind of a rundown. And this is completely changed now. They've actually modified this to give you, first of all, a 3x3 grid. So these tiles all shrink down. These tiles all shrink
Can I
down.
hold up my phone?
Yeah, yeah. Hold up the phone and see if we can get a good view of that. Yeah. So there you can see you've got Rick's got 9 games there, and across the bottom you've got 3 buttons, and one of them looks like it says challenge, and the other one looks like it's your next
New
tournament
game. It's new
updates,
game, arena, and tournaments.
new game, arena, and tournament, which is different because we had challenge, tournaments, arena, and new
I
game.
think.
So they've kind of
Yeah.
combined a couple of things here. Yeah.
Yeah. New game, arena,
Okay.
tournaments.
Yep. And
So
then
there we go.
you've got a tab set up across the top there, right?
Yep.
So do you have like a way to differentiate which of these games is for which purpose?
Which tab are you talking about? This ticker
Um,
right here is the activity
yeah,
feed.
yeah, we'll come back to that. But how can I know
Oh,
which game, which one is for which games are competitive, which games are for fun?
well, you can't. There's no way to know once the game has started. I don't think. When you get a challenge, something they've added is, or when you issue a challenge, there's a drop down. Here, let me show you.
All
There's a
right.
drop down that lets you select. Here, let me send new challenge. So you can see Tuna Slaps, who I played last, and there's
Mm-hmm.
this drop down right here. You can see
Oh,
that.
okay. Yeah, it's reversed, but it looks like it says just for
Oh,
fun.
oh, it's
Just for
reversed. Yeah.
fun. There's 5 different choices here. What do they read? The choices.
So just for fun, rematch, practice, fan tournament, fan league. I don't know what the difference between a fan tournament and fan league is, but um, so just for fun, rematch, practice, fan tournament, fan league.
Okay.
So you can choose one of those when you send someone a challenge. And so if you select fan league or fan tournament, they know, hey, I this is for one of the leagues I'm in. I get better. If you don't immediately know what it's for, you know to go look.
Yeah.
So it's very helpful.
Yeah, it's
I've
a
found.
great quality of life improvement because so many of the same names. I mean, we hear it every time we have a cast and you're doing results. You got the same names at the top 10, top 3, top 5. They're playing in a lot of activities and events, and these things can kind of run together. So knowing, do I need to play a different way because it's dodgeball or endurance versus board game geek league, or it's just a practice? Any impact on your overall game breakdown? Like if it's not a ranked game, does it doesn't count towards your ladder score, your ladder win rate, right?
Right. Yeah,
But
that's the same.
do they count your practice games as part of your like global win percentage? Is that all
Yes.
still everything
Oh
still
no,
counts?
no. Any challenge doesn't count. So that's only
Challenges
a
don't
drop
count.
down for challenges, and challenges don't count towards your. Oh, I'm sorry. They count towards. I think this is not new, but you can see. Uh, it breaks down weekly challenges. That's not new,
Yeah,
right?
no, that's not new. That's been there,
Yeah.
but
So that's but your overall win percentage. Yeah, challenges, whatever it's for, will count towards
mhm.
that.
Okay, got it. Yeah, that's the same. It's just knowing when the game starts what the purpose is.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, but that's still huge. We
Oh
also
yeah.
talked about the social ticker across the top, and they make note of that. There's a
Mm-hmm.
little UX on top of your list that shows you what's going on right now. If somebody wins a tournament, there's a little banner that says "Congrats" or it says blank just won a tournament,
Mm-hmm.
or Darklighter just went 6-0 in arena.
Yep.
So you get to kind of see, and there's actually some really cool controls. Of course, it's global, so as there's a lot of people playing, there's constantly people hitting 6-0s in arena, but you can limit that to just people on your friends list. If you're not familiar with the friends list feature, there actually is a favorites feature. If you navigate into your new game on the challenge UX, there's a little people icon in the top right corner on the existing release, not the new one, and you can add people into your favorite list. And this setting that we're just talking about will actually limit to give updates around when people on your favorites list actually do something. So you or I, Rick, might see when one of us gets a 6-0 and or wins a tournament. When you inevitably win that tournament, I'll get a notification that says, Darklighter just won that event, which is kind of cool. I think that's super duper cool. Let's see what else. Okay, so they added the attack button, dun dun dun, and they've given you an option to disable play all.
Thank
And
goodness.
boy, how many times have we gotten in trouble just hitting play all, but with in events or any type of chaotic format?
Yeah.
You've been playing with this for quite a while. How do you feel like the ability? Well, first of all, can you explain how the attack button works since it's originating from Hero Realms?
Right. So right now in the app, you see the play all button, and you can hit play all. Um, Once you've played all of your cards, this new feature is once you've played all your cards, that play all button is replaced with an attack button, which you can click. And I have it disabled, so I'm trying to remember what it does. I think you click it and it will just end your turn. It'll do all your damage and end your turn.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and which is nice in the Hero Realms app. I like it. The problem, I think, is only for dodgeball players. The attack button, because it's happened to several people where they've in dodgeball. Sometimes you want to end your turn without doing damage, because you don't want to kill them. You want to wait till next turn when you can do more damage and potentially hit them or catch them.
Mm-hmm.
But the attack button just will attack, end the game, and whoops. Um, so uh, so I have it disabled because of dodgeball. But if I didn't do dodgeball, it's nice because there have also been times way back when you could end your turn accidentally without doing all your damage.
Yeah.
That is that it was a possibility, right? So now that it kind of um, helps you from or prevents you from making that mistake. So it's nice. I would use it, like I said, if I wasn't doing dodgeball.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the you can disable it in the settings as well as the play all button.
So the play all will force you to manually pull the cards into the play field.
Yep,
Yeah,
you
just like
gotta play each one.
you got to play each one. Which probably pretty smart for people to disable play all. If you're not playing in the dodgeball league, maybe you don't care about the damage or the attack button, but yeah, but if you play in chaotic formats, you should definitely definitely consider that. And just so that I'm clear, the combat pool accumulates, but if you don't use the attack button, can you still double tap on the icon to deliver the damage so that you can give some of it? Uh,
Well, yeah. So, like, if you've played, three cards that have some damage, you use all that combat you've generated, then play some more cards that generate more combat.
mhm.
Um, then you could, end your turn without doing that last damage, if that's
Yeah.
what you're asking.
Yep, that's exactly what I'm
Okay.
asking. Cool. Okay, and then let's see what else do they have to say here. Yep, they added that. Of course, we mentioned about the Rift. Oh, sorry, not the Rift, but the High Alert cards that are coming. I think
Hmm.
there are a few other small tweaks and changes that are included here. But just what's your general sentiment about this refactor? I mean, obviously, you get to see a grid of more games. You get the social
Hmm.
features. You get the new expansions. Do you feel like does it run more smoothly? Is there any other sort of experience performance impact that you've kind of taken for granted maybe since you've been in this test for a while?
Um, the 3x3 grid is great. Like, when I looked at your screen, I was like, oh man, that was the biggest thing that jumped out at me is the 2x2. So the 3x3 grid is probably my favorite because I usually have tons of games queued, so you can scroll through them easier,
Mm-hmm.
quicker. The ticker, honestly, I don't really care. I don't haven't disabled it, but or limited it to friends, mostly because I don't have any in the app.
Mm-hmm.
But the ticker's fine. It's nice to see who won a tournament, but I don't really care about who. had an arena run personally,
Yeah.
but I do like seeing who won a tournament. Um, there is on I think on your screen there were two buttons for was it there like a ranked and challenged? Were there separate buttons for that?
Yeah, there's a new game, which is a 48-hour game or a real time game. Then there's challenge, a tournaments button, and then arena.
Yeah, so now you can there's only one button for new game, which then takes you to a menu where it could be a challenge or a new game that's real time or 48 hour. So I
Mm-hmm.
think the game selection process is a little streamlined, which is nice.
Mm.
Um, but but overall, I mean, there's no change that I don't like. There was a prior iteration which it was beta, so and they did away with it. So I don't need to get into it, but I did not like it. but
What was that?
but this was that
What was that?
the ticker was more like a scrolling ticker, like vertical scrolling, and
Oh,
so
ooh.
half the screen was just a list of like people who did win an arena or won tournaments, and nobody cared.
Nobody
so
cares.
it was
Nobody
common feedback they got
cares.
as yeah that's too much. So the horizontally scrolling ticker at the top isn't bad. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. It's one of those things where Hearthstone in particular has a very, very strong community and friend kind of network built into the game to make it easy to challenge people. So I can imagine if they look at those or look at some of the other games that it's not fair. Comparing Hearthstone, MTG, those aren't fair comparisons to Star Realms because they're not the same games, but
Hmm.
they do attract similar players. People, like we all, you and I, among others, come from a Magic background or have played a lot of the games along those lines.
Hmm.
So they tend to attract a certain type of player. So it's natural for people to make comparisons between them. But yeah, okay. Well, that's pretty good. So that'll be coming out on the 9th at 9 a.m. Eastern. And now, if you guys have updated stuff from app stores, which I'm betting that you have, if you have this app, it might not propagate immediately to everyone at the exact same time. I mean, I know that's when they're going to push it live, but it might be an hour or in extreme case might be another day before that update hits you. So
Hmm.
if it's not a game breaker, then I'm happy. It's not really going to impact you until it's ready, and then we get to try it out because I've been waiting for a while. I've been watching the streamers and seeing this great UX, and I'm like, oh, I want to try this. I want to play around with this. So that's
And
coming on the
I
ninth.
while we were talking, I sent a message to Joel at Wise Wizards asking just to confirm. And so I don't know if I'll get a response before Monday, but when I do, I can just post a comment in response
Okay,
to this post just to make sure we know whether it's going to break games or not.
awesome. Yeah, well, all the Hero Realms ones seem to break games, so that's where
Yeah,
my energy
that's
is from.
true.
All right, cool. Well, look for that on February 9th, 9 a.m. Eastern, new update. And we'll look to hear from you guys about what you love, what you don't like, what's still missing. And I think that's actually the biggest question is they're making a lot of improvements,
Yeah.
but what's still missing? Undo button, advanced
Oh,
button to trigger ally events when you want to play
oh my
them at your
goodness.
cadence,
That
right?
Hero Realms app has spoiled me with the undo button. On a daily basis, I'm playing when I'm playing Star Realms, I'm like, oh my gosh, why did I do that? Can I undo that, please? I can't. I like reflexively now. I'm looking for the undo button when I'm playing Star Realms. So yeah, that would be amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's I've said it here first. We need Star Realms Digital Kickstarter 2.0.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
and we basically can put some money, everybody can put in 20 bucks and then they'll at large at scale, that's a lot of money, and then they can pay the developers to add these features in, right? It's pretty straightforward. And once again, like if you're listening to a podcast about this game, you probably more than got your money's worth
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
so so
Yeah.
maybe it's time. I know everybody likes to pony up when the new sets come out or jump on the kickstarters or get the new box sets, which is great, but hey, maybe throw a couple bucks in here to help pay for some upgrades that I think we would all love, but then spend 150 games unwiring our bad practices, because if
Yeah,
you have an ally ability that draws, it's just going to happen. You know that that's going to
yeah,
happen. So remembering to do that is going to be a little bit complicated.
yeah.
So all right, cool. All right, Rick. Now we just talked about the new changes coming to the digital app. Let's talk a little bit about high alert tech cards, and you'll recall we did a cover. We covered these actually. I feel like over a year ago when they first got announced, and we got started seeing them in the Kickstarter leaks. So, high alert is, well, let me say, high alert tech cards specifically are a new mechanic, which is kind of similar to heroes in that you buy them and then they immediately go into play,
Hmm.
but then they offer some specific benefit that you can use once per turn. Do I have that correct?
That is correct for a cost.
For a cost. And there's no way for anybody to destroy target tech or anything along those like at this point. So
There
once
is
you
not.
buy it, it just sits there in your play field and then you use it or don't use it. It's up to you. But once you buy it, you've got it and you're good.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, you got it. It goes into play when you buy it. When you want to use it, there's a cost. Then you get some ability.
Okay, so you've had hopefully thousands of games on the high alert tech cards, maybe not thousands, but what do
Maybe.
you think? I mean, we had some fairly modest reactions to the cards in terms of what we thought that they would do. None of them seemed like they were game breaking. Some of them were game accelerating, depending on when you got them. But for the most part, we were like, if it fits your strategy, buy it and use it. But you're not gonna. This isn't the arc. This isn't the arc. You're not gonna, buy to win these things. What do you think so far? What's your plan or what's your thoughts?
I like the set. It changes the game in a good way, but it's not game breaking or they're not overpowered.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it and but there's variance. I've had games where the tech cards made a huge difference in the outcome, and I've had games when I didn't never used them. I bought them and I never used them. Just because it cost them money and I needed that money for other stuff.
Right.
Um, I did the card tier list. I don't remember when, but they're in the card tier list that I update. And for all of them but one, I think I rated them tier three early game, which basically means they're kind of meh early game.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because usually early game you need to buy ships, you need trade or scrap, or if you're going aggro, you need damage, not one of these tech cards. Um, there's only one that I think you should buy early, and that's the one that lets you scrap from the trade row. That can be huge early
Mm-hmm.
to have that ability, just an ongoing ability to scrap from the trade row. So that is a tier one early game, um, uh, and that's probably the most useful of all the tech cards. And it only costs one to buy, and then only costs one to use the ability. But so overall, I like playing with the set. Um, my impression of like the cards as far as their value in game, they're average. Um, Often, you know, I never leave them out there if I have the trade, but they're often a leftover purchase. If there's nothing
Interesting.
else, nothing better. They're never like the value pick, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You
Yeah. I
know,
think that makes sense.
if you've got three trade, you're going to go for like the Imperial frigate or a cutter or convoy bot. Those are awesome picks. You're excited when you buy those. I never really get super excited when I buy these tech cards. And sometimes they come in really handy, like the one that lets you, trigger an ally ability. That can be huge sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
The one that lets you look the top two cards of your deck, that can be huge. Other times you never use them. So I highly recommend them, but I also recommend not chasing them in game. You got to. It's going to take some playing to really learn the value of them, but I don't think they're going to be cards you need to fight over with your opponent.
That's good. Yeah. That's interesting. I literally, this is the one set I have zero time on. I don't have the cards yet. I ordered
Mm-hmm.
them, so I'm waiting for them to come in so I can sleeve them up and put them in my universal storage box that we talked about last time. But I don't have any time on these. I do have, of course, as previously mentioned, a bunch of time on Magic, and Magic had some interesting kind of equivalents or related sort of concepts to these. Right, you've got artifacts in
Mm-hmm.
Magic that stay in play, but there's also artifact destruction or removal cards that get rid of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
There were enchant world abilities in the very early days of Magic where you would just, add something and maybe it benefited everybody. Like it was something that changed for both players. But those also could be removed, like destroy, enchant world. So these kind of feel like they've got a heritage from those types of card concepts, but I haven't played with them, so I don't know. I'm looking forward to getting them on Monday and just like, the only thing I know about them is they say "ha" as their initial tech. Ha tech. Why is the abbreviation T though? Because why isn't it hat?
You mean the
Because
abbreviation? Oh, in the
in the Star Realms nomenclature, I mean, I know the
it
answer to
has to
this,
be
right?
T.
Because
We
it
have to
has
pick.
to
It
be,
has to be one letter. It
yeah, it has
cannot
to
be
be
two
one
letters.
letter. But what happens when we have enough sets that we've used every letter in the alphabet?
Apocalypse? I don't know. I mean,
Star Realms
we
Apocalypse.
get into ampersands and quotation
Ampersand.
marks.
Ooh, what's ampersand format?
I don't know.
Ampersand format's got Voltron cards where bases and ships combine to flip over into some new format, right?
I don't
That'll
know
be
Greek
interesting.
symbols, but
Greek symbols. I love it. Yeah. Well, okay. Well, but any final closing thoughts here on the Ha Tech?
um, no, just nothing else. It's fun. I think they're fun, but they'll have their value in games, and some games. Here's one other comment. If you look at the card tier list, I think most, if not all of them, in the late game, I rated tier one,
Mm-hmm.
and that's not necessarily because they're like an arc. They're not like an arc in the late game or any other tier one ships. Only because if you have the trade, you should buy it,
Mm-hmm.
right? In the late game, or really any time, I guess. But in the late game, you're going to get the most value out of these because you're most likely to have leftover trade in the late game, um, and you can always use that leftover trade to use these tech abilities.
Mm-hmm.
So if you had two of these tech cards, um, that each have a cost two ability, and you have an extra four trade that you otherwise wouldn't have spent, you can trigger, you know, a one that bounces a base. That's helpful. So they do
Mm-hmm.
have their value, in the late game, but just in the mid and especially early game, often you need to buy a base or a ship over one of these.
All right. So then I've got one more question to ask you here about these.
Yep.
Because you can have more than one of them in play at a time, right?
Hmm.
and and there's a bunch of different ones, right? There's the pay three draw card, pay three get three combat. Is there any interesting combo that you've used where you've used one, two, or three of these cards combined to great effect to do something really interesting?
Not really. There's the one that you can, let's see, put the next card you acquire this turn on top of your deck, and then there's one that lets you draw. That's
Right.
kind of obvious, you
Yeah.
know?
Yep.
So you could basically, it's almost like paying four to buy a card and put it in your hand, you know?
Right.
Um, so there's things like that, but I really haven't seen any huge combos. And in fact, when we first talked about these, or no, when I wrote up, if you go to the Megahaulin page, there's a blog post I wrote about these two called Tech Support.
Mm-hmm.
And when I wrote that, I didn't really think of these cards in combination. I was kind of thinking of them in isolation. But if you have three of these, you may not be able to trigger all of them on a turn. So some of the analysis I was doing, I was kind of not thinking about the fact that if you have a bunch of these, you have to pick and choose which ones to use. So that's even less value you may get out of all of them, each one individually, if you have a bunch and you can't use them all. So, um, but they're nice tools to have in your back pocket. But yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense. Oh man, I'm just thinking about like some of these great old cards like Demonic Tutor. There's no Demonic Tutor here, which for reference was from Magic was one and a black would let you search your library for a card, put that card in your hand, then shuffle your library. What? You could play that on turn one, right? Like that kind there's nothing like that. So
no,
but I do wonder though, um, how these things will interact with events and gambits and things along those lines, right? So it'll be interesting to see like how does this extend the play opportunity space because they're in play, because you're using them and you're kind of combining them. So I know you don't have the luxury of knowing the exact format that person's going to play in when we're doing the rankings. So there's like,
right?
well, this is taken in abstract against all other cards. Here's how I feel about this card individually. But in certain formats, those cards might be incredibly valuable. They might jump by 2 or 3x to that meta tier.
Yeah. And for example, there, I think Colony Wars is the one where a lot of the scrap cards are only discard pile,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so one of the tech cards lets you cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So that will be very helpful if you have one of those, destroyer bot or whatever it is that can only scrap from discard pile, because then you can just use it to throw one in. So that's where the bigger, I guess, more interesting and bigger combos I've seen is not between two tech cards, but how the tech cards interact with ships that are in the gamer
Right.
bases. That's
Yeah.
where you'll see some big plays with these cards.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, great. Well, then this will be a new expansion, so you'll have to add this on. It'll be a new $2 or $3 expansion. I don't know what the price is, but pay a couple more bucks, unlock some new cards, and get some fun new play opportunities. So that'll be coming out on the 9th. Please share your feedback. What do you like about the new app changes? What do you like about High Alert Tech? You can always reach out to us on Facebook, Megahaulin, a Star Realms podcast. We're on, or email us, megahaulin@gmail.com. You can also find us in the Star Realms Galactic Summit. We've got actually a channel on that Discord where we post links to the podcast and talk to people. So if you're curious about that and you're a Discord type person, you can message us and we can find your way in there. I don't know if you can just discover it out of hand, but probably you could if you look for it.
Hmm.
Probably find it, but we can help you if that's something you're interested in. So yeah, so we'll have to see how it goes. All right,
Yeah,
Rick, do we have any updates on digital competitive Star Realms? What's going on in that world?
we have a few. So in the uh, so Derek Thompson Alderin ran a "We Don't Talk About Yoakum" Commanders event
Yes.
where, yeah, all commanders were viable except Yoakum, just
Hmm.
to see how it would go, because it's still being debated, whether Yoakum should be included or not in leagues. But
The answer is no.
well, I disagree. But well, I think he should be in some, but not all.
Okay,
They
that's
should have
fair.
a variety. It should be a format, Yoakum or no Yoakum. That's my opinion. Um, but anyway, so when Carlos won that one over Penguin Army, and I don't know which commander he used. I don't know. Actually, I should have written that down. Um, but in Dodgeball Battle Royale, which is one of the individual dodgeball events, this is Dodgeball Battle Royale number 15. There's not a result, but it's down to two: Alderin versus Chasmo.
Wow.
Um, in the SRPC Event 3, which is the first Grand Slam of Season 4, it's also down to the finals: Corey Bear 88 versus Agent Seto. So we'll see who wins between those two. And then in Dion Lunsford's Commanders League, the WWBC, they're currently on Event 5, and that's not done either, but I thought I would comment on it because last cast we talked about Event 4, where you were the only non Yoakum player in the top 8.
Yes.
So I was curious what the top 8 looks like this time.
You're not going to find me. Not
No,
this
me
time.
neither. I'm not there either. But it is a little more diverse. So out of the top 8, there's 4 Yoakums. actually one one of the top 8 spots is yet to be filled, but the people who could get there are all Yokums, so it will be
Hmm.
a Yokum. So 4 Yokums, 2 McCready's, 1 Lee, which was impressive,
Yeah.
and a Walsh. That's the top 8. So half of the top 8 was Yokum, half was one of the other guys.
Yeah.
Um,
That's great.
so there's a little more diversity this time in the top 8, but still a lot of Yokums. And if you go back to the top 16, it's like 10 out of the 16 are Yokums. So um,
Well, I have
still
an
a lot.
observation there. I have an
Okay.
observation there. I really think, and I've talked about this just a little bit about a few casts back. You know, what's the optimum format for Commander X or Y or Z?
Ah,
And and you know, Derek Alderaan has also done the honey, the W honey,
yes.
or Hwoon, as I pronounce it, Whune,
Uh-huh.
you know, which is basically also known as slot machine. That format is actually perfect for Nandy. Actually, that's a
Mm,
great format for Nandy because Nandy can has the always has the trade or the ability to top deck something and react to a lot of the events and that come up much more evenly than just about anybody. Derek actually told me, he's like, you should try running honey, and I probably ran 15 games and I'm sure I won 9 out of them, and I took down a bunch of McCready's and Yokums along the way there.
oh,
You know, and the ones I had a hard time with were mirror matches. I of course I did lose to McCready's Yokums, but I seemed also vulnerable to Newbergs in that format as well because Newberg
interesting.
seems to have a lot. But my feeling is that it comes down actually to really being what are the formats and then who's the best commander. And Yoakum is universally the best commander for any format. He doesn't care. He'll deal. Like he's the Gen Xer of commanders. You know, he's just going to deal no matter what. But other commanders benefit depending on the format. And the new event that Dion's running with the bottom row, I'm going Lee, and I've got 30, 40 games playing Lee on bottom row, which includes the Frontier events as well. For those not familiar, if you look in the digital app, everything is kind of broken out. I hope it stays roughly the same so that things like bottom row still mean something when the new version comes out. But it's like Frontiers, Frontier promos, Frontier events. Um, um, I don't remember what else, but it's just the bottom row, all of the bottom rows, and then I guess High Alert Tech would be added onto that bottom row now as well. But but right now, I played 30 or 40 games just in the last week and a half, and I won a lot of those games. And it seemed like when I went through and looked at the card gallery, I found a lot of cards that had a disproportionate percentage of cheap cards that were that had scrap abilities. Blob Miner being one of the perfect. Blob Miner is a great card for Lee
Mm-hmm.
because you can top deck it with his ability, with his scout ability. And then next thing you know, you've got the ability to scrap a bomb out or buy a bomb and
Mm-hmm.
then pop it and then draw into something else, right?
Yeah.
So those kinds of cards, there's a disproportionate percentage of those for Lee in that format. So I think we're getting to a phase of the game, and maybe it's catch up for me, Rick. This is what I'm worried about: is the Corey Bears and the Alderaans of the world have known this, and I just am like, whoa, let me just into this fact. I hadn't really considered the idea of counting cards, and I hadn't considered the idea of looking at which cards make the most sense for my deck specifically
Mm-hmm.
in the context of commander tricks.
Yeah.
Otherwise, in general, yes, I've looked at that kind of stuff. What's the makeup? What's the ratio of bases to ships? That kind of thing. I've looked at that kind of stuff, but when I was starting to do this Hwoon, the Whune or the honey, um, I asked Alderaan in the Discord, and I said, "Are you card counting the events that come through?" Because sometimes it just pops and there's like 5 events go boom, boom, boom,
Right.
boom, and he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "I don't know how many events are left per se, but I do know which events have come through." And so I think he's looking for specific events that tend to disproportionately impact or influence the outcome of game
Mm-hmm.
and to know whether or not they're there. And you might take a substandard buy and buy a one coster that you don't really need or want that kind of muddies down your deck for the chance to flip an event. You're actively trying to use that chaos to manipulate the game in your favor and get
Mm-hmm.
a huge damage lead. So I think I just need to spend personally time inspecting the formats and the events and the ratios of cards and what type of influence I might be able to exert on the game if I'm behind, for example. So maybe great players have already been doing this for years, and I'm just the guy to catch up slow. But that's going to become a new arrow in my quiver going forward.
Yeah, I don't know how many. I'm sure Derek is, but I don't know how many people have gone that deep. I haven't, and that's really good stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But like I said, level 47, and I did it on the back of Nandy Slot Machine and Lee Bottom Row. Those were the two
nice,
that I played the most that broke me out of the funk and got me moving
nice,
forward. So
very
yeah,
nice.
yep, yep. And let me say this for all you dodgeball players, and I'm telling you too, Rick. Uh, don't throw chaos at me and see what you get, because I've been playing it a lot, and for some reason I think people have heard me say that I don't like events, but I'm like, I've in dodgeball I've made my peace with the chaos. So throw
Okay,
chaos at me and see what you get.
nice. I like it. I like
I'm
it.
throw I'm throwing Hoon with no commanders. That's my format. So get ready, people. All right, Rick. Well, we've been going for a little while here, but I think a lot of great
Hmm.
things on the horizon here. I did go back. Actually, one last thing. I went back and I'm trying to find out if we can get a date for when the legacy card set is going to come out. I know that I haven't heard much about it, but I'm actually thrilled to play that. I know that
Yeah,
they've got a lot of great ideas, and I went back and I was looking through some of the show notes from when we did that show, and some of those cards look really interesting, and I'm just kind of eager to get in there and kind of
yeah,
play with
same.
those sets. But now is kind of a rough time. They said in the last announcement or their weekly kind of thing that supply chain is hurting them too. It's slowing everything down.
Yeah, I thought originally the plan was early this year, but it seems like they're kind of shifting to where they're not going to run a Kickstarter until can more predictably know when it's gonna can
Yeah.
ship. Like they're going to be a lot closer to production before they'll put it on Kickstarter than they have in the past. So
Well, except for the very early updates. If you'll recall, they had like the very early updates. It seemed like they had them in the can, and they were
that
just basically raising
uh,
money to send them to the printer. Like they
uh,
were really quick early on, and they got a great reputation from that. But some things happened that were beyond their control to some extent.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
You know, and when people unlock advanced rewards for beating the overall Kickstarter raise, all it does is sends them back. Like if you can't sit around and design and balance out a card or a format to add in to the Kickstarter backers because you think they might hit that number. Like
right.
anything that's in the reward tier, I would bet is either stuff that was R&D that they thought, oh well, we'll finish that work. We'll go back and we'll balance that through and figures that out. But that's work that wasn't anticipated. So if it can have a big impact on just the overall finishing of everything. And then of course playtesting it. Once you've got that done, you've got to play
Hmm.
test it now with everything. So there's that
Yeah.
project debt gets a bit deeper every time.
Hmm.
So we'll see. We'll
Yeah.
see. Alrighty. Well, we're gonna let's wrap it up here. Thanks to everybody for listening, and you can find us again. Megahaulin.com is the strategy blog site where we've got a lot of great articles. If you're curious about how to get better at the game, you want to learn about where you can play in some of the competitive modes, you can check us out there. Always check out the Facebook group, Star Realms, a fan created community. That is pretty much the best community I've ever been part of from a gaming standpoint.
Absolutely.
So jump in there and make yourself at home. You might even see some silly Star Realms cartoons made by yours truly from time to time. All righty. Well, thanks you all for listening, and we will see you next time. So long, and keep scrapping those scouts.
So long, everybody. See you, Dustin.
See ya.